Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the chilly studio this evening. It's turned cold here. Winter has finally arrived in Central California. Welcome, everybody. A few people here. Tom and I have been chatting a little bit. Tom's got some of the rain coming his way that I had last week or beginning of this week, as it's moving its way across the country. Siddique is here. Welcome, Siddique. Hope your week is going well. So tonight we're going to be painting a horse. How about that? You all knew that from seeing the the trailer, the title of the video, the trailer. Couple of things, right? The brushes I'm going to be using, as I usually do, are going to be my King Art brushes. My paints over here on my right-hand side, which are a little out of scene there, are going to be my M-Gram paints. I did a little pre-testing to see what colors I might want to use on this horse. I've got some straight burnt umber here, which is nice. Burnt umber with maroon perylene in it, which is lovely. Burnt umber with alizarin crimson in it, which is nice. A little on the redder side, and a little bit of burnt umber with some yellow ochre in it. And then I kind of did this wash here that's got just burnt umber on the side, a little maroon perylene in the middle, and a little yellow ochre over here. And I think it makes this lovely wash in here. If you send it away from you a little bit, it looks better. I don't know whether this is 1.5 feet, 2 feet away from my eyes. I think it looks really nice. These are going to be the basic colors that we're going to be using on this animal. And that brings me to this, which is my drawing, which I hope you can see. I've done a close-up of that a little bit. There's the horse's face. But I did it on this paper, and I thought this paper was going to be Strathmore 500 series paper. And because I had bought some, and it comes in a big square like this, and I was like, that's great. And I pulled it out, and I drew my horse on it. Everything is going well. And then I flipped the page over, and it's got a flat back, which tells me it's not 500 series, it's 400 series paper. The 500 series paper is all cotton. The 400 series is all wood pulp. So we're going to have a challenge. When I say we, I'm going to have a little bit of a challenge tonight, getting this to act just the way I want it, because it's all wood pulp paper. I'll deal with that. You guys do what you normally do. Ask questions, be a cool audience. I appreciate that. I'll figure it out along the way, and I'll talk about it, and we'll decide what should be here, what shouldn't be here, how it should go on, and what we can do with any of the little drawbacks that wood pulp paper has, as opposed to, it being a full cotton or a cotton blend paper. So I'm going to start by putting a little bit of gray right around this horse's mouth, and I'm gonna put this gray on kind of up to the end of its nose here, or the beginning of its nose, depending upon which way you look at it. And then I'm going to blend it out. I'm gonna just give a nice blend here, because I want this horse to have this nice, beautiful gray undertone on its nose here. Hello, Natalie. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you could make it. Natalie, I hear it's turning cold in your neck of the woods. It's gotten cold, or it's been cold and rainy here. So it should be moving its way east across the country. A little bit more gray in here. Okay, so I've got this gray color in here, and if it's in here perfect, awesome, or whatever perfect is. If it's not, that's awesome too. This is going to dry a little bit lighter, and it'll give us the opportunity to get some color, on top of it, and on top of it, and on top of it. it's a place to start. Now, here's where I am going to have trouble with this paper. Cotton paper or cotton blend paper holds its shape better, meaning I can come up to the edge of this color with a different color a lot better than I do with this wood pulp paper. Wood pulp paper, you touch it and it's going to bleed out, and it's going to bleed out, and it's going to bleed out, and it's going to bleed out. And so I've got to let this bit dry just a little bit longer than I normally would. Sunika says, I'm in Chicago. I'm in shock. It's 50 degrees here. Usually February is our coldest month. 50 is too cold. I made split pea soup for dinner. Oh, you're not afraid of, Natalie, you're not afraid of cold, cloudy days. Now, I just want it to be known, I'm not afraid of cold, cloudy days either. But let's see, last week, we got 2 inches of rain. This week so far, we've got 1 3/4 inches of rain. The cold, the wind, the rain, all that together, it's a little more than I bargained for. I moved to California. I thought it was going to be perfect weather all the time, and I would never have to worry about that. Oh, Sunika, you just made some potato leek soup. Actually, I love both potato leek and split pea soup. And has anybody ever seen the movie? We got by my records, we have 7 people here right now. Has anybody seen the movie Sideways? With Paul Giamatti and Thomas Hayden Church are in it. They filmed it just up the road here, and they filmed part of it, I think, in a place called Pea Soup Anderson's, which was famous for making pea soup and obviously selling it at their restaurant. And it became a stopping point between San Luis Obispo, which is close to where I live, and Santa Barbara. And people would stop there halfway and get a thing of pea soup along the way. And anyways, the Pea Soup Anderson's, it's hanging around there if anybody wants to look it up. It's a cool little place. All right, I'm going to wait just a little bit longer for this. And while I'm waiting for this to dry and we can start our next little bit here, I'm going to show you what I've been up to. And I'm pretty happy with this, actually. And this is not on wood pulp paper. This is on all cotton. This is a piece of Arches watercolor paper, but I've got a friend who has a dog and asked me to do a painting of her dog, and this is what I've come up with so far. A little bit yet to go on it. I did this on Saturday morning, or maybe it was Sunday morning. I think I did it on Sunday morning over on Twitch, whichever way Twitch is, one of these directions. And those videos are up on Twitch right now. If anybody wants to jump over and see them, they can watch them in replay over there. They'll be hanging around for about another week. And this weekend, I'm hoping to finish this up. This is a fantastic little watercolor painting. I'm really enjoying doing that. Axis 2132 is here. Hello, welcome. Colorado thinks it's California. I think we forgot what snow and cold weather is. You may have. You may have. I haven't had to deal with snow and cold weather in almost 10 years now, and it's been lovely. It's been fantastic. And it's coming home to roost a little bit this year. That's okay. I really don't mind the cold. I don't mind the cold. I don't mind the cold. I don't mind, I do mind the wind, but I'm kind of okay with that. And I kind of don't mind the rain, but I don't like all of them together. Natalie says, your grandkids live in Denver. Your daughter had, your grands live in Denver. Yeah. My daughter had the little ones out hiking on Monday. Oh, wow. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to mix up a little bit of color here. And the color I'm going to mix up is a little bit of burnt umber, a little bit of maroon perylene, and a little bit of yellow ochre. And the only part I have to worry about on this line is the part right around the horse's nose here. So I don't want to get into that. Once I get up past this gray area, the colors are going to be relatively the same anyways, and I could go right on top of the horse up here. It won't matter all that much, but I do want to make sure that I don't get over this beautiful gray area that we've painted on there. It's just dried enough. We've got a beautiful hard line there. And I'm just going to block in some color. If I get a little bit more of the maroon perylene in one area, awesome. I'm not going to sweat it. If I get a little bit more of the yellow ochre in one area, that's awesome. I'm not going to sweat that either. And if I get a little bit more of this burnt umber in any one area, that's cool too. I'm not going to worry about that. I just want to make sure that I've got a first layer of color down. We'll figure everything else out as we start adding light layers on top of light layers on top of light layers. The one thing I am going to be a little bit cognizant of is the whole chin here. What do you call it? Yeah, the chin, the neck area here, or just behind, just in front of the neck. I guess it's the chin. I could go over it and it wouldn't be a big deal, but I think I can steal some of the qualities of the paint and of the paper, and as I work my way around, it'll give me a natural hard edge there. Now I just said I could go over it here, and I can, or I can let the paint do a little bit extra of the work for me, which I am going to do. Thank you, paint. I appreciate that. And none of this is a first layer, and you see I'm just putting it on to put color on. And if I had a bigger brush, if I swapped out a bigger brush, it would probably go a little faster, but then I wouldn't get to talk nearly as much. So I'm just not going to do that. And if you look at the reference photo over here, I got it right there. You see he's got all this hair up on the top of his head, and his ears up here are quite dark. I'm not going to worry about it. We can always paint a darker color over a lighter color, or usually paint a darker color over a lighter color without worrying too much about it. I'm going to employ that not worrying too much about it right now and paint right over the top. I am going to worry just a little bit about the shape, not too much else. And I see people are saying something up in chat. I'm going to get there. I'll be there in just a second. What I don't want to do is have a hard line in the middle of this animal somewhere. So I'm just going to continue to go around this, and then I'll stop. And we can talk about whatever. We can do whatever we want to do while this is going to be drying here a little bit. And I should say last week I did the entire painting all at once. I put color on everything all at once, all at one time. Foreground, middle ground, background, everything to start with. And I could do that again this week. I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy doing that last week. And, quite honestly, it stressed me out a little bit. I think it didn't affect the painting in the end, but it did stress me out a little bit as we were starting and going along with it. So I'm going to not do that this week. And here's where, when I come down his jawline here, and he's got these giant muscles here from eating oats all day, or carrots or apples or whatever it is that horses eat. I was hoping we could get just a bit of a hard line in there. I'm not sure we're going to get it. That's okay. And I'm going to take this color and I'm going to pull this color down, and I'm going to let it lighten as it comes down. And this has got to come pretty far down here. But the further it comes, the lighter it's going to get. And I just don't, I'm okay with doing anything down here. I just don't want to leave a hard line. And this paper, it's going to be slightly difficult to do this. And this is, quite honestly, this is where I learned this technique, is get your brush wet, push some paint back, right? And then dry your brush off and go over it again and do the same thing. And that will help to prevent having a hard line at the end. Okay, so Sneaka says, how's the paper working out so far? So far, okay, that's a great question. So far, it's not terrible. That doesn't mean anything. We're barely getting started. But what you do notice, what you should notice, is I put it on and look what's happened already. I don't think I did anything that I wouldn't have done with any other paper or with the Fabriano paper that I typically use. But look, just in that short amount of time working up and around, I've got that big cauliflower right there. And I think I'm going to get another one right over here. And it's not terrible. It's just not optimal, right? And if you look here, you can see I do have, and I learned this about this paper a long time ago. I used to use Strathmore 400 paper a lot. If you put this on, I put one layer on here, this gray, I put it on, I let it go, and then I let it dry. I can do anything I want to on top of it. And with this paper, you typically have to work in a little smaller area, and you can do a lot with it. You start getting in a bigger area, and you might get away from, this edge a little bit, and it dries like that. It dries super fast. And then you got to monkey with it and fuss with it a little bit. And I don't want to have to monkey and fuss with it a little bit. I mean, I'm going to, because that's what we do. But if I could have prevented that, I would have. And if I had flipped this paper over, actually, can you guys see this? Let me see if I can do this. If I hold this up, can you see how rough that paper is on that side? And if I flip it this way, super smooth. Look, no roughness over there at all. As opposed to whatever this is. Oh, an old bird. Rough paper there. Whoops, you could probably see here the color a little bit better. Rough paper there. This one is rough on both sides. So that was a big giveaway to me that I really should have known. That's okay. We're going to make it work. Half of painting is knowing what the limitations of your tools are. We know that, and so we can adjust and overcome a little bit. Now I'm waiting for this to dry a little bit, and I'm stalling just a little bit, but we're going to get moving on with it. And if I need to wait too long, I'm going to pull out the hair dryer, and we'll go with that. But I think what I'm going to try to do while I'm waiting for some more here is I'm going to just very easily, very lightly start to paint in a little bit more in a couple of areas here. Let's see. That's pretty good. Starting to get some of the nose on here. There's a little differentiation here where his mouth is. That comes around the corner a little bit. So I want to get that on here. Now, I don't want anybody to think that wood pulp paper is bad, because it's not bad. It's just different. It's just different. That's it. It has its benefits. It has its detractors, just like anything else. And really, the only thing is that you have to know how to utilize that paper. I've painted some, I believe, I guess other people might tell you a little different. I've painted some paintings that I thought have been really fantastic on wood pulp paper. Well, I guess that's up for debate, really. Well, I thought they were pretty good. And they just didn't turn out like they would have on different paper. But once I knew how to use that paper, I was all good with it. Totally all good with it. I'm going to do a little bit. I'm just adding a little bit of color here and there. Carlos is here. Welcome, Carlos. Great to see you. Thank you for joining here. Carlos was nice enough to join me on Sunday morning. Oh, I can't even remember what day I did. Sunday morning. Has to have been Sunday morning. Carlos was nice enough to join me on Sunday morning when I was painting that painting of a dog. Thank you for joining for that one. Thank you for joining for this one. And here's one big thing that I'm going to have to do here. This paint, especially with my table being slanted a little bit, this paint is going to want to come down. It's just going to want to run and run and run. And I don't want it to run and run and run. So you got a couple of options. You can not paint on an incline, or you can just watch it and push it back a little bit. Push it back, just push it back a little bit. Either one of those are fine. It's just knowing what the paper's going to do. That's all. The other thing is you can do this a little drier. That would help a little bit. Carlos, what have you been working on recently? Anything exciting? Anything we should know about? Anything we'll want to go and take a look at? We want to know. We want to know. We might stop by your channel and take a look. Let's see. Natalie says, I encourage my beginner students to use wood pulp paper because it's better price point and they're more apt to practice if it's not precious. So that's a great point. Wood pulp paper is at least an order of magnitude cheaper, right? And if you paint something and it doesn't turn out the way you think it ought to turn out, you don't feel nearly as bad for having used a whole sheet of paper or a half a sheet or however much paper you're going to use. Excellent point. Totally true. Absolutely true. There's a lot to be said for that. Okay. We started to get a little bit on the nose. Not a whole lot, but without doing a whole lot of painting here, we've already started to get some cool definition in there. I need to figure out where I want to go to next. My head, I should be doing it this way, really. Ooh, right in the center, it's not quite dry. It's all dry around here. The ears are dry. The flank over here is pretty dry. So I can kind of start to go around. I've got to figure out here where I want to put some darker colors, where I want to put some lighter colors, and how I want to do this. I think what I'm going to do is slightly damp, but I think I'm going to get away with it. You know what? I'm not going to get away with it over there. I can just tell you. Let's see. Carlos says, I bought some 18 by 24 inch Arches paper to play with. Wow. You might paint something on that soon. That's a nice big sheet of paper. 18 by 24 is a fantastic sheet of paper. Federal Agent is here. Hello, Federal Agent. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. As I'm looking at this, I've got to do a couple of things. I've got to add a layer of color here, right back on this horse's flank to, let me do this. Okay, here's a bigger image for you. It's not a whole lot bigger, but you can see where the muscle on his rump is, right on the side of him is back there. You can see there's a kind of a dark line, and his flank, his ribs are a little bit darker, but none of that is quite as dark or intense of color as his face is. So I need to, here's the challenge. I need to make this darker so I can add some detail here, right? The detail is what's going to be a bit darker, but not make it so dark that it conflicts with how dark we're going to make this. And I don't want to make this, I don't want to just keep layering and layering and layering and layering and layering and putting stuff on, especially if I'm working with umber, raw umber, burnt umber and yellow ochre, because those two are kind of sedimentary, and they'll sit right on the top of the page. And as soon as you brush over them, if it's thick at all, if it's a thick layer, it'll just pull that paint right off of there. So got to be super careful about that. All right. Now, knowing those are my goals, here's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to mix up a little bit of this color, and I'm going to try not to overmix it too much. All right, I want to leave some of that goldeny color in there. I want to leave some of that red tinting in there. And I'm going to come over and I'm going to put some back here on his rump. Okay, and then I'm going to try to blend that down, and then while I'm doing it, I'm going to put on some lines that are going to come this way. I don't know if you guys can tell at all what I'm doing. How about this? I'll tell you while I'm doing it, right? I'm going to darken his rump here a little bit. His haunch, is it? Or is the rump his haunches? I think his rump is his haunches. And then I'm going to bring this, I'm going to wet this entire area here because the color's going to want to run a little bit. And if I don't wet it, I'm going to potentially end up with a tide line, and I don't want to have a tide line. So I'm thinking I'm just going to have to wet this anyways. A little bit more of this color. Here's part of his haunches, and then as I'm looking at it down here, I can almost draw in a few lines. And then this can come, he's got a leg right here. There's a front leg right there. You guys have no idea what I'm talking about. I just know because I'm going, am I doing this right? Okay, so cool. A few ribs in here, something. A little darker back here. Before that leg. That's going to be here. Someday I'm going to learn animal anatomy, and I'm going to be able to talk coherently about animal biology. At some point, I'm going to be able to do that, I promise you. I will have painted probably so many animal paintings. I should be able to do it easily, or I should have been able to do it already. Let's see. This has got to kind of come up like this. Do we have any good bleedy, bendy colors in here? I'm going to drop some ochre in here for interest. Not because I think it's going to do, you know, a whole lot to the color as it's drying, but I think when it's dry and you look at it, all these colors are going to blend together a little bit, and it's going to add some cool interest for when it's dry. Cool, and I like that. So that's going to be everything back there. And I don't think I want to do a whole lot more with that. I think that's pretty good. So now I can decide what's the next place I want to tackle. And plus, that gives me a good stopping point here, right? There is a leg here. It comes down. There's a front leg over here. Front leg here, front leg over here. All of this behind. And it gives me a good stopping point right where that front leg is, a hard line. And for me, I like seeing hard lines. It means I've got something I can I don't have to paint past. Now, the next thing, I'm looking at this, the next thing I want to paint, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do the ears. I'm going to do the ears. Give me some sepia here. I'm going to do these ears. I'm going to do a layer of sepia on the ears. They look black, but I'm not going to use black for this layer. Maybe we'll get to another layer where we'll want to use an even darker color. Well, I want to come in with something that's kind of in the middle here. And this is going to come down, right down his ear. Spread this color around. And this is going to be a good test for us. If I don't like this ear, you know what? I'm going to put some hair on it. I'll have to draw some hair on it at the end and make it a little bit fuzzy. And if I do like the way this ear turns out, then all of a sudden it gets to stay just exactly like this. Good thing I'm painting and get to decide all of this. My sepia's mixture is a little thin here. For whatever reason, the past few weeks, like my honey is dried up. I know that's not possible. Like my honey is dried up inside my sepia. It almost feels like a Winsor Newton paint at this point in time. It takes so much to wet it. I don't understand why it is that way. M. Graham, you've never failed me before. I'm not enjoying it now. Let's see, this on this side comes way, that color comes way down. That'll be fine. That's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. Any fine adjustments I need up there? Okay, cool. Now I'll tell you what I want to do is I want to jump in and start adding some cool details on the face. We're going to get to some other stuff here. Don't ask me why I want to jump in and do this right away, but I do. And I know if I do this, it's necessarily going to add a hard line here, a tied line, and then I'm going to get frustrated with it, especially using this paper. But I want to start in some smaller areas and start to add some shape and some color so it can give me some direction on what I want to do next with this painting. And I do like going around eyes. If I paint around this eye and don't make it don't paint all the way to the eye, especially on larger animals. When I paint that eye black, it's going to stand out. It's going to be like pow, right out of here. And you know what else I can do here? I'm gonna start jumping around, so I can come. Let's see. I can come down here. Let's do this. Let's add a little bit down here. I got a nice hard edge here. It's going to come about this far down. nice hard edge. And I can pull a lot of this straight on down. Oh, Mr. Federal got here and everybody said hi, and then everybody got quiet. I know you're all fascinated just watching me paint. I'm okay with it. I'm okay. I'm going to keep on talking though until somebody asks a question. Oh, I should say we're also still over on Twitch tonight. And I probably also still, that's not really a word or a saying or anything, don't have my chat hooked up correctly. But anybody from Twitch who says something, it'll show up right in this area here, so we'll be able to see it. And then, can I put my hand here? I've got some area back here. I can color. It's kind of like color by numbers, but not really. Let's see. This comes down, there's a muscle right there, and I can almost connect these two together, almost. And this will really go a long way to getting rid of that tide line we had there. If I can blend some of this out, I'm going to come down his neck like this. That's a bit thick. I just want to leave a bit of a line here for some musculature. I've got to go back. This already dried. This dried so quickly. Right up next to its chin, right next to his chin, her chin. Does this look like a boy horse or a girl horse? Does it look any different to anybody? I'm not sure which it is. All right, I'm going to leave it like that for just a minute. Starting to get some color in here. You know what? Let's see, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do a little bit more on the nose here. I've got my neutrals, and let's see, this nostril comes around, and it gets a little bit darker underneath this nostril. So I can start to add some of this color in here. And we're just going to layer this up over time and time again. When one area is a little wetter and we don't want to work in that, we'll just shift and work in a slightly different area. And we're going to work all the way around here. Maybe this can be warmed up a little bit. That Payne's Gray is very cold, especially when we're working with such a small area here. Those cold colors can get to be a little overwhelming. It's hard. Natalie says, it's hard to tell what the sex of this animal is from this point of view. That's true, but does it really matter? We can call him a him, or him a her, or her a him, him a or her a him. However that works out, based upon what he looks like or she looks like. Just in our video, right? Just here, it'll be fine. I don't think the horse will mind. I think it'll be okay. let's see. There's a muscle right here. I was painting the picture of the puppy there on Saturday. I have no idea if that's a. I was calling him a boy. I'm not even sure he's a boy. I don't know what really matters. It's a dog. It's a dog. Everybody loves a dog. But I would like to get it right a little bit. But in the end, I don't really know. All right, so there's a little muscle in here. I'm going to add a little bit of color. Because I have a couple of lines drawn in here, and some I don't, and that's okay too. But all of this is going to start to, just add a layer of detail here and a layer of detail there. And by the time we're done with this, already you can start to see there's something going on with this horse. There's the mouth is already starting to come together a little bit. It's getting there. We got a long way to go, but it's getting there. We're like Smoking the Bandit. We got a long way to go and a short time to get there. Or did I probably just dated myself with that reference, didn't I? Does anybody know? I'm afraid to ask. Does anybody know how many years ago, how many decades ago Smoking the Bandit came out? Smoking the Bandit came out in the 70s? Oh my. Oh my. All right. All right, let's move past the Smoking the Bandit reference. Nothing to take notice of there. Nobody look at my gray hair. Nobody look that it's falling out. Everything's good. Just go about your own business. It's all good. All right. I'm liking this. Look at the nostril. Okay, so look. Put that paint on and wipe that paint off. I don't know if you can see. It's already pushed back down and started to make a hard line right there again. On this paper, it will make that hard line, that tied line so quickly. You really got to stay on top of it. You really have to stay on top of it. Let's do this. A little bit of this red. I want to make this much more intense color up here. You know what? Give me some more of this red. This red is a more intense color. There we go. That's going to be some of the color of this ear. Nice, nice. I want that to stick out. Right? I want this to be a little bit out in front of everything behind it. So I'm just going to do that little bit, and then I'm going to blend this color out. And whoever, Carlos, you watched me on Saturday. You saw me do a lot of this. Put a little color on, blend a little color out. Put a little color on, blend a little color out. I think it's so much easier to work in a smaller area like that. And take 3 cracks to get it done rather than do it in one thing and mess it up. And when you're doing it this way, a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit here and a little bit there, it's really exciting to see the whole thing come together when you do it. You do that little bit and you do a little bit and you do a little bit, and all of a sudden you're going, holy cow, that that looks a lot like what I had in my mind. How did that happen? I don't know how that happened, but it's looking pretty cool. All right, so we got an ear and we got an ear, and they're kind of red up there, and I'm good with that. Now, I'm going to decide down here how far this this brown color comes down, right? When I painted this gray, I pushed it up a little bit, knowing that that gray is lighter and we can paint over top of it. How far do I want that color to come down? I don't know, but I've got to decide, because whatever I do coming down the side, it's got to be intense enough to stand away from the color in the back here. I've got to make it bright enough. I've got to make it, you know, saturated enough that it's going to stand apart from what's behind it. It cannot be at that same level. Can't have the same saturation. It's not going to work. And this might be one of those areas where we just kind of have to put on a couple of layers to get to where we need to be, or where we want to be. And if that's what has to happen, then okay, that's cool. We can deal with that. We can totally deal with that. But let's put some color on here and see what it looks like first of all. Yeah, and this paper is starting to curl and buckle a little bit as I'm putting a little bit more and a little bit more paint and water on it. Starting to curl and buckle just a little bit here and a little bit there. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. We'll work it all out. I'm continuing to turn my page here because it's a little easier for me to work my colors. If I turn my page a little bit, don't worry about it. Don't fret about that. It's not really any bit of a big deal. I do want these to have a nice blend down here, though, a really nice blend. And so I'm going to try to take this color right back up the snout here. I don't even know if that's the right word. Snout? That's not the right word. Nose? What? Somebody must be a horse person. I'm not. Obviously. Obviously I'm not really a horse person. If there were anything more obvious, it would have hit us all in the nose bit by now. There we go. Look at that. All right. All right, I'm good with that. I like that little bit of change of color in here. I want a little bit of that change of color in there. I do want to kind of stay on this a little bit to make sure that it's not going to form that hard line that I don't want, because it might do that in a hurry. Muzzle. Wait, muzzle? Is it a muzzle? You muzzle. Muzzle's a noun and a verb. Muzzle. Yeah, you might be right. Natalie, you might be. Did you look that up? You knew it's right, and I didn't. I'm going, I don't know. You're probably right. You're right more than I am. Muzzle. I can live with that. A muzzle. It looks muzzle-ish. Totally looks muzzle-ish. It's probably like textbook muzzle. The definition of muzzle is the long protuberance on an animal between the nose and the jaw muscles or something like that. Muzzle. I'm going to go with muzzle. And just say Natalie's right on this, and I'm going to be done with it. Okay. So we got some color on here. It's starting to look good. It's starting to come together a little bit. It may not be perfect yet, but that's okay. We're getting there. We got some beautiful colors on it. This part back here is pretty much done. I was in live with horses as a middle schooler. Oh, cool. Wanted to have a horse ranch and not children. You wanted to have a horse ranch and not children. And thus you learned horses and horse terminology. I get it. And you had some fantastic kids along the way. The horse dream may be faded, but the kids turned out fantastic. Dry, wet, still a bit damp. Well, let's come up and do some more on the ears up here. Let's do this. Let's add a little bit of color to my sepia. This will darken it down a little bit. A little bit of this Payne's gray in with the sepia. And I'm gonna do one more layer here of this color. Maybe a little more substantive than that. And this is going to come down that side. This is going to come way down. And then I'm going to put some red or some other bits on that are going to go back up. We'll make a nice blend here, a nice variegated wash to let the color come down the rest of the way. A little bit more color. I have to say I'm really enjoying this, not mixing a ton of color up at any one point in time, mixing as I go. I rode a friend's horse for a few years before I had kids too. I have a very little experience on horses, but horses are too smart for their own good. They really are. They think too much. You look at a horse and you know it's thinking, and it's looking at you going, yeah, I don't know about you. I'm not so sure about you. I had friends growing up who were dairy farmers, and, as farmers go, they don't just have a dairy, they also have other animals and whatnot. And they had some horses, and we'd go over and ride those. And then I spent a summer on a ranch in Montana, and we rode horses all the time that summer. That was fun. That's how I know that if you don't show the horse that you're the boss, they're going to tell you that they are the boss, and you're going to quickly be in trouble. I think the first day I went to ride a horse that summer, I got on the horse, and I wanted to go that way, and the horse wanted to go that way, and I ended up going mostly that way, the way the horse wanted to go, and ended up going through a stream, and I'm sopping wet. The horse is all wet. My mother yelling at me, I thought you knew how to ride a horse, and blah blah blah. You shouldn't. Now you're all wet, and yada yada yada. Ay ay ay. At that point, I learned quickly, you really need to take charge. If you don't take charge of a horse, the horse is going to take charge of you. Sometimes that was fun too. I will admit to that. All right. We're getting a little bit around this horse's head. Let's see. I volunteered. The horse I rode limped all the way away from the barn, but was smooth as silk all the way back home. Oh, fantastic. I volunteered. Suzuki says, I volunteered. Let's see. I volunteered at a stable. I actually liked grooming them more than riding them. Oh, that's nice. Did I tell you guys? Did I tell you guys about Maui? Have I talked about Maui? Maui the horse. There's a winery out here that has rescued a couple of animals, and I was lucky enough to go and visit the animals, and one of the animals was Maui. Maui's a bull, I guess. Maui's a cow, but Maui's a bull, and quite large. And once I got to meet Maui, Maui didn't want to leave, or didn't want me to leave, I guess I should say, and was kind of running over to meet me, and I would just go and pet Maui. And Maui was the sweetest big old bull I've ever known, and Maui's friend at the winery, it's a working farm too, but it's a winery, was a camel named Frida. It was easy for me to remember because Frida, of course, is the name of one of my chickens, and the two of them together were two of the sweetest animals that I had been around in a long, long time. But I find that oftentimes rescue animals are super, super sweet, super sweet. I would have spent a lot of time. I would spend a lot of time with those two if I could. If I worked there at that ranch or at that winery, I would totally spend a lot of time with Maui and Frida. So nice. So nice. You mentioned Maui while waiting for your wife at the candlelight. Okay, cool. Yep, that's exactly when it was. Yep. Okay, so I did mention it. So you guys know. You guys all know all about Maui. Maui was pretty cool. It doesn't make me want a pet cow, quite honestly. But if I did, I would take a Maui. But it does not make me want a pet cow. Makes me want to visit a pet cow. I'll visit somebody else's. The horses really like me because I always brought them carrots. There you go. Oh, I used to take my kids to the equestrian center at the local university here, and we would take carrots and we would take sugar cubes and whatnot. We would stop and buy sugar cubes to take to them, and we got yelled at for it. I was like, what? You can't yell at little kids wanting to bring sugar cubes to the horses at the equestrian center. And they're like, well, we can no longer guarantee that what you're bringing them is, good for them and whatnot. And I'm like, what? When did that get to be a thing? I got a kid who's 3 and 5 and wants to feed a horse, and you guys are running us out of here. I was not really happy about that. Does everybody else get to feed horses? Sudika, that is the way to win them over. Everybody else got to feed horses when they were little, didn't they? I hope. Horses are some of the coolest animals, but holy cow, owning a horse, not something I would ever want to do. All right, so I want to make sure I'm talking about what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to add some color and some interest to this horse. Maybe there's a bit of a muscle here or something like that, right? Maybe he's got something here. All these little things that you're going to put on here are just going to add a little bit of texture and a little bit of interest to this horse, right? To this face. The more we add on here, the more this is going to be something you want to see or to look at, or, the more interest is going to be here. And if we put our paint on in such a way that we have these beautiful transitions in here, then when we're done with it and you look at it, you're going to go, wow, there's so much going on in there. So much going on. And that's what I'm hoping for. That's really what I'm hoping for. I want, when we look at this, when it's done and it's dried up, that we just look at it and go, oh, that yellow ochre in there, that really adds some extra interest. Or that maroon paraline up by that ear, that makes it look so interesting or so neat up there. I want to see a lot of that in here. I really do. I really do. The more of that we get in here, the more interest is in here. The cooler the painting is. The more, you do this, you take away what you learn from here. You do this on a Saturday or Sunday, or you do it with your local painting group, or you take something out to the park and you sit down and do it, and people are going to come and walk past and go, well, that's really good. Wow. That's fantastic. And then you go, yeah, I've been doing it like this for a long time. Let's see. There were some owners who allowed their horses to be used for lessons in exchange for boarding. I can believe that. Boarding is quite expensive. Those horses always knew when a newbie was on their back. Yeah. Yeah, they know. They're too smart. They are too smart. So I will say, one of the cooler things that has happened to me, and this is totally when I was growing up. This is when I worked on the ranch that summer. Is we were out. I'm not sure what we were doing some logging or something. I don't know. We did a lot of work to get that ranch through the next winter, right? A lot of the work. I mean, those guys. This would have been in the early mid '80s, right? It was a long time ago. Their driveway was 7 miles long. Right, they lived in the middle of nowhere, and a lot of the year that these guys spent was prepping for either winter or the next year. And so we did a lot of helping to prep for winter or for the next coming season out there. Just, one of the things that happens when you're living on a ranch out there, in the middle of, literally in the middle of nowhere. And so we were out in this field, somewhere in this field, and I don't recall exactly what we were doing out there, but I do recall that we drove up on some wild horses, and I had never seen wild horses. I certainly knew what domesticated horses were. I'd been in contact with them, from time to time. I rode the ones at the ranch, and I had learned as a scout to ride horses, but far from an expert on any of it. And I remember being out there and asking the ranch hand that we were living with that summer. I was like, what's up with these horses? And they're like, well, they got released a few seasons ago, and nobody's really ever been able to tame them or get them back in. I forget what the circumstance was that they were out and about. And I was like, can I feed them? And he's like, I don't think you're going to be able to do that. And I don't think they're going to let you do that. But I took a bucket and I poured some oats in it. And I walked out to them holding it out, and I want to say they remembered enough of humans or people, or they remembered enough of what the smell of those oats were or whatever it was. And I eventually just stopped and stood there for quite a while, and they came up and just kept inching forward and inching forward and inching forward. And eventually they started eating out of the oats bucket that I was holding there. And I'm like, this is one of the coolest things I'm ever going to do is feed wild horses. It was so cool. I was so excited that I got to feed wild horses. Nobody else in our group took the opportunity to even try to do it. They didn't think the horses were going to want to eat out of our hands or out of a bucket or anything like that. And for about 5 minutes, I got to feed some wild horses. And then somebody moved or somebody said something and they got a little spooked and hightailed it out of there. But I was like, this is so cool. God, I think about it now and I'm like, God, I really did have some interesting experiences that probably not a whole lot of other people had. Certainly nobody around me where I grew up had experiences like that. There might have been a lot of people living out west out here that had similar experiences, but nobody I would have known. Let's see, I want to darken this just a touch. That's probably just a touch too much. I want to darken this just a little bit. So I dabbed a little bit of sepia in there. I just want to make sure. Yeah, see, that's pretty close. Maybe a little bit more of this maroon in here. I want to make sure our two colors here are just ever so different. Just a little different. All right, so I know what this jawline is, the jaw muscles here, and what everything behind it is. I want there to be that little bit of differentiation here. They're very close. The intensity, the saturation of color there is fairly close, but we're gonna have to push this a little bit. I want to be able to see this color. I do. I like that. I like the red in there too. I think the red looks fantastic in there. That maroon, I guess it's not really red. That maroon in there, I think really looks nice. Let's pull some of that right up in there. So if I were Andy Everson, I'd say, well, these two areas need to be connected. And maybe they do, I don't know. In his world, everything has to be connected. They can't have things hanging out on their own. So we're gonna connect those. But look, so we've just been putting on a layer here and a layer here and a layer there, and we haven't really given a whole lot of. I mean, I've given some thought to it, but honestly, I haven't given a ton of thought to what exactly this horse's muzzle could or should look like. And by just dropping on a layer here and a layer there and a little bit here and a little bit there, holy cow, we've got something now that really looks pretty neat. We're developing a lot of depth here as we continue to put these colors on. Quite a lot of depth. Everything is looking really good. Sunike says, I saw a video of a guy who approached some wild horses. He missed all the warning signs from the stallion when he tried to pet him. Oh, yeah, and the horse bit him. Yeah. See, I think I would not have tried to pet those horses. I probably was so scared. I don't remember being that scared, but I can imagine I was probably quite scared and so in awe of those horses that I was not going to move, regardless of anything. And I still remember it was like this orangey red bucket. kind of like if you anybody who's shopped at Harbor Freight, like a Harbor Freight bucket or something like that. And I just remember holding it out. And if they came, they came. If they didn't, I wouldn't have been able to feed them, and they did. And I was so excited. Made my whole trip. I didn't make my whole trip. There was a lot that was really cool about that whole trip. I have to say, that was all set up by my mother. She actually went to high school with a woman who ended up being a ranch hand on that ranch. And for anybody who's a movie buff, do we have anybody who's a movie buff here? Anybody who's a movie buff, two things from that ranch made it into movies. One is that they filmed the movie Livingston Saturday Night on that ranch. And the second is that Jimmy Buffett, if you're a fan, married the rancher's daughter. And he, of course, did the soundtrack for Livingston Saturday Night, or part of it anyways. So there you go. So there's my brush with greatness, which is not really a brush with greatness in any way, shape, or form. And if you haven't watched the movie Livingston Saturday Night, I would say don't bother. As I remember, it was a terrible movie. As I remember, it was horrible. But look at this. Look at his mouth is looking great. It's so good. So good. Got some extra color up here we can put in. Just a little bit of color in here. I want to get rid of, there we go. I had a little tiny bit of a white line in there, and I don't want a white line. I think that's one of the other things that happens with this paper also. Somehow, some way, shape, or form, the paint, when you paint to an edge, it doesn't quite go all the way to the edge somehow. And everything gets left with a little bit of a line, and I look at it and I go, no, why did you do that? I don't want you to do that. Let's see, I've got some more colors over here. Let's bring in some of these ochres. I don't know how long we've been painting. Let me see, how long have we been painting? Oh, an hour and 15 minutes. Wow, we've been an hour and 15 minutes. It seems to me like we've been doing this for like 12 and a half minutes. I don't know, this has probably only felt like 3 hours to all of you guys. But I am quite honestly thoroughly enjoying this painting. And I have to say, this year, one of the things I want to do is, do what I can to kind of fall back in love with painting. I feel like I went through a short amount of time where I felt like painting was a second job for me, and I don't want a second job. I want to do something that I very much enjoy doing. And these Wednesday night sessions have really helped me get back to falling in love with painting. And on the weekends when I sit down and just make myself do some painting, I'm like, oh man, this is great. I love this. So all of a sudden, this doesn't seem like we've been painting for an hour. It seems like we've been painting for, like I said, maybe 20 minutes. Diana's here. Hello, Diane. Welcome. Oh, gosh. I was looking to see if I had any water, but I don't think I have any water. Welcome. I'm glad you made it. Diane, if you ever got any questions about anything, throw them out there. everybody's been listening to me talk for a long, long time now. And I'm sure they're ready for somebody else to ask a question or to have the conversation directed somewhere that I don't want to take it or that I'm not going to take it. So any questions you got, throw them out there. I'd love to talk about whatever you want to talk about, or anybody really who's here in chat. You all know I'm willing to talk about just about anything. So I got a bigger pool of water here than I really wanted, and I can't quite do this. That's a little wet still, so I'm going to come back up to my ears up here, and I'm going to add a little bit of this red underneath as an underneath tone here. Let this blend up that way. And I'm going to come right over like a second layer up here. I'm going to blend this out going both directions, meaning down onto the head this way and up into the ear this way. I thought I heard it start raining again. Okay, and I'm going to kind of do the same thing over here so that these will match a little bit. Let's just put some red over here. Hopefully when this dries, this isn't too red. If we need to, we can put a little bit of this ochre in here. This will tone it down a little bit. And again, if it's got a bit too much ochre in there, I don't think it's going to matter. It's just going to add some interest to the colors that we have on here. And I don't need to worry about this ear over here quite so much. But this ear, I can blend this way down. I don't have to worry about this one because there's going to be some mane hair in front of this one. So I can do a bit of anything I want to with that. But yeah, okay, so I like that. So then we'll put just one more layer of black on these ears. It's going to help it sink in. It'll look really good. That's still wet. I think I can get in and do this now. So there's some darker areas in here. This is going to take another layer in here. It's okay. Another layer. It's going to come down this way. Like, I don't know, something like this. Something like that. And I may have made this a little too red. That's okay. I'm not going to sweat that a whole lot because we can then, just make this a little bit more red to match. Put a little glaze on the top of that. And luckily, many horses have the like red undertone. You know what? Even if they don't, this is the one we're painting, so we get to make it up however we want to anyways. We get to make it up however we want. All right, I like some of that. I want to get a little bit more red in here. I want to match these a little bit more coming through here. Just a little bit more. But I don't think it needs too much. I'm going to try to bring this color up here without getting into that wet area. Okay, cool. Just got that. Just got that. Yeah. I like this area back here. I mean, it's not perfect, but I'm okay with it. Actually, I wanted to. Where's all my color gone to? I could add a few lines. Or add a few ribs here. I think we could blend this. We could still make these look like they're going in that direction without getting it too strong. That's my thought. Right? That's my thought. Okay. I think that adds a little bit more to it. And if you think it's a little too much, you can pull just a little bit off. Let's see. Dana says, are you still on every Wednesday? I am still on every Wednesday. I am, just like today. Every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Pacific. I'm here painting something or other. I don't know. Something. Sometimes I paint something good. Sometimes I just paint things. That sounds terrible to say. Sometimes I paint things, you just hope for the best. No, that's not really true. I typically know what I'm doing or where I want to get to. Sometimes it just takes a little while to get there. Sometimes it takes a little while to get there. Okay, cool. Now we've got a little bit more on the back here. I can get behind that a little bit more. Again, if you think it's a little too much, we can just pull a little bit of that out, but that gives a little bit more texture back there. Still loving all of this up here. I wish this was a little bit more cottony. We could actually do a little bit more quickly, but that's okay. You know, I just wouldn't have to let it dry quite so much in order to put another layer of something on it. There's a little line there. You know, maybe there's a little line right here too. Let's just put some color on and blend it a little bit. See what it looks like. As long as we leave it wet. Oh yeah. As long as we leave it wet, we can futz around with it and play around with it and pretty much do whatever we want to. Because wet paint is our friend. Damp or drying paint, not quite so much. Not quite so much. I have a little bit of trouble with some, damp, almost dry or dry paint. Tends to not like us quite as much as we work with it. All right. Okay. Some more burnt umber here. Some more burnt umber. Maybe a little bit of this red in there. I keep saying red. It's not really red. It's maroon perylene. A little bit of maroon perylene in there. And I want to match some of this. I want to match that color a little bit. Maybe not all of it, but a little bit of that color down there. And again, I'm going to drop this in and I'm going to take a look at it. And if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, it's still wet. We can take most, if not all of this right off of there. I just want to have a little bit of a line there. Okay, so cool. You can still see. All right, I like this. I'm going to connect that on that side. I'm going to leave a little bit of a spot there. I'm going to leave a little bit of a spot, that light spot. I don't want that to get heavy because I want some lights and I want some darks in here. I want all of these lights and darks to play together to give this some movement or some life, to make it look interesting, even though we're not doing, even if we don't do a whole lot with it. It can still have such an interesting look to it. Right, okay, you get out of the way. And this is the further we go, the further it kind of gets away from that horse. I don't think that's okay. I don't have a problem with it. Right? That's our starting point. This is our ending point. This is the one that really is what we want to look cool and nice and interesting and whatnot. And if it looks like that, awesome. That's fantastic. If it doesn't, yeah, not so worried, because we're still gonna end up with something that really looks fantastic. It already looks really cool, and we don't have any hair on it. We don't have any of the main hair coming off the head on it, and it still looks cool. And we don't have anything behind it. He's just kind of standing there. And it still looks great. I don't know, I like it. I like the direction this is going. I'm going to put a little pink on a couple of spots here when we get to that point. I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a layer on his eyeball. And I'm going to start with Payne's Gray. I like to start with Payne's Gray when I do this, for no really good reason. It gives a nice blue tint to an eye. It goes on pretty easily. It's not very granular, and it's going to dry lighter than you think. That's basically why I do it. Right? It gives me plenty of opportunity to put some color on, evaluate it a little bit, and then darken it if I need to or if I want to. And I'm trying to get around this and not put my hand on anything that's wet. There we go. There's his eye. And we can put a little bit of dark around his eye if we need to in a second. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to come up and finish up his ears up here with some of this dark color. A little neutral tint, a little sepia, a little bit of Payne's Gray. Gives a nice dark color. And I'm actually going to do some, negative painting on the inside and right on the edge of his ear here. And to me, this is one of these things that always seems a little weird. I have a really dark color on there already, and now I'm going to do some negative painting and make it even a little bit different. Is that really going to work out? And to me, it's always sounded or seemed a little weird, and it always kind of works out for me. Put that extra dark on there, and darks, especially when they're this dark, are odd. They're odd. Let's call them what they are. But they work for us. If we don't have them on there, they aren't going to work for us, and the picture's going to look funny. So we'll get them on here. We'll get that dark in here. Yes, I realize at this point I'm just kind of babbling as I do this, but that was such a dark color. It looked such a dark color before we did anything with it. It looked totally dark. And now I'm saying I'm going to go back and put some even more dark on top of that dark. And it's going to look natural, or it's going to look right. And I've struggled with this for a long time because it doesn't suit my eye the way I really think it should. But for some reason, it kind of works. It kind of works. So let me get this on and then let me show you what I'm talking about. I need to expand this out just. Okay. Cool, right there. So here's what I did. That was really dark. You saw it was really dark. Now I put some extra dark on there, and it made that dark not look dark. Does that make sense? It gave some definition to the ear, made it look like there's some skin out here, right? There's a ridge out here. Same thing over here. It looks like there's a ridge out here by putting the extra dark inside. Even though before I put it on, that dark looked like it was super dark. It's a weird thing. It's completely, totally a weird, strange thing. It works somehow. And I'm not exactly sure how it does it. And I can't quite put that hair on there yet. So I'm not going to quite put that hair on there yet. I am going to put a bit of a pink spot. I want this subtle pink, not bright pink. Subtle. This is as much of an homage to this horse as I'm going to give as anything. Is there's a little bit of pink in some of this area here. A little bit on his nose down here. Right, just some nice little pink areas down there. There you go. Look at that. It's a nice little pink. And we might still come back and put a little extra dark on there. I don't know if we need it, quite honestly. I think his mouth looks pretty good down there. His neck, this needs to not have such a hard line on his neck right here. We developed a bit of a harder line than probably we needed right there. See if we can get rid of a bit of that, just a bit of it. But when you look at this, you get that his neck is there. There's some musculature there. Right? There's a different area here. There's a different area here. There's a different area back here. We can see all of that. It makes sense to us, to your eye when you look at it. I think it makes sense to my eye. That's what I'm going with. Mostly. I think he's starting to really look good, though. Anybody else think he's looking good? Loving it. Natalie says, loving it. Thank you, Natalie. Natalie, you said that even before I said anything. It's hard to describe what I'm doing here sometimes. Not because I'm doing anything that's crazy, but because I'm doing repetition on the same thing, and I'm trying to do some nuanced things, some really lighter things that I don't know, maybe will pay off in a couple of minutes when we're done with this. I hope it'll pay off. All right, cool. That looks a little better. A little extra color down here. And you know what? I don't think all that down there, I don't think it matters all that much, because you're just going to be looking here. We're going to put some white on his eye. We'll put a little dark around his eye. That's going to be good. This is looking good. I actually like his ears now that I'm looking at him. Maybe we'll put a couple of hairs coming off of his ears after we put his mane on here. I do need to, before we get too far, I need to put something in the background. I don't think it needs to be much, This is my opportunity to really mess everything up. I'm going to go with the biggest brush I got. This is a number 10 Da Vinci Casaneo brush. I don't even have a mop brush. Hold on a minute. I want to get a... Hold on a second. I'm going to get a mop brush. Hold on one second. Where is this? No. Here we go. Right there. Okay. Whoa. Okay. So this is a mop brush I've used many times. I'm looking. I have a whole palette of brushes over here. I don't know what you call it. A whole tray of brushes. And I was looking for a couple that I'd used before. Now I like this brush. I'm not sure what kind of bristle is in this. I know it's a synthetic bristle, but I don't know what it's supposed to mimic. I would guess squirrel because it's so soft and supple and it bends and it holds a ton of water, but it doesn't come to a good point. This one is squirrel and it does come to a pretty good point. I've used it many times. It comes to a pretty good point there. We're going to use it here to put just a bit of a sky and maybe some down into some trees or greenery anyways on this. Not much at all. I don't want too much. I don't want to put on enough color that it's going to take away from our horse. It's always my concern when I put something on my painting is that it's going to take away from the subject matter. For a vast majority of my life and my painting, I've been a fan of letting the subject area stand alone. If it's good, it should easily be able to stand alone and not worry about, and now I've splattered some blue on it and I don't want to do that. Okay. The more I paint, the more I'm kind of changing that a little bit, and I'm willing now to do a bit more of some gentle, what I call a gentle background. Just some basic coloring. Doesn't have to be anything too specific. It doesn't have to be anything too fancy. Just a little bit to set it in a place. And this big old brush should allow me to do quite a bit of that quite easily. A little bit of cerulean blue, a little bit of cobalt blue, a little bit of mix of the both of them in here. Let's bring that down. And none of it quite homogeneous. I think that's the right word. Just something in here to add some color. Shoot, we can even darken it a little bit as we come down. A little bit of ultramarine in with some of our cobalt green. Right, the way I now try to think of this background is, and I've got years of photography behind me, so I'm going to think of this as though I'm taking a picture and the horse is in focus, everything else is out of focus. So I'm imagining there's some trees back here, he's standing in a field, some trees back here. I go to shoot a picture. The focal length is so short that I only capture him in focus. Everything else behind him is just behind him. doesn't matter. It's back there doing something, and I'm just picking up a little bit of water here and there so I don't get a puddle and then a big back run. And hopefully I've done just enough on this. Ooh, I can actually wring the water out of this. Check this out. This thing holds so much. I don't know if you can see it. That I can wring. Look, I can wring the water out of this. I can just squeeze it, and I get puddles of water out of this brush. It holds so much water. So much water. And now, now that I've wrung it out, I can see I've got a puddle of water all the way down here again. I'm just going to tap it, and these bristles will soak it right up. There we go. Done, done, and done. Okay, what else do we need to do here? What else do we need to do? I'm looking. We do need our hair, our mane. We do need some work on his eye. Let's give another layer on his eye. I'm going to go into the dark that we used up here, and I'm going to add another layer to it, and I'm going to paint everything on this layer except what I want the highlight to be. So where I want the highlight to be, I'm just not going to paint that. Everything else gets a second layer. There. And you can see how I've done that. There you go. That's where the highlight in his eye is going to be. And then let the whole thing sit and dry. And because I've done this back, we have a few moments. Anybody have any questions? Anybody want to talk about anything else? Anybody got any plans for the weekend? I don't know what I'm going to do on the weekend. It's supposed to be rainy again here. The only thing I know I need to do is I need to clean up the shed where I keep the chicken feed, because we got some kind of varmint who got into it and has got into the chicken feed and the bird seed and all of that kind of stuff, and it's kind of made me a little angry. I don't want mice or rats or anything inside my chicken feed. So I gotta spend a little bit of time cleaning that out. See, I'm gonna see if I can do just some very, very slight dark here. Very slight. Right. This is probably not gonna work out. And I'm going to go, why did I do that? No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. As long as I don't touch part of it, it's going to be fine. A little bit of dark. That's okay. That's okay. I think it looks okay. I'm going to add just a little bit more coming down around here. Just a little bit. It's just going to take that bright color down. That's basically all it's doing, is just taking that color down just a notch. Just a notch. Actually, I feel like I could pretty comfortably even add a little bit more dark to this. Pretty comfortably. Here, we can do that. We can do it. We can do it. We have the power to do it. All right. Get just a little bit of dark around that eye. I like it. I like it. I like it. I think now, though, that this top is a little too bright. So I'm going to put a little bit of this red or this brown just on there to darken that down just ever so slightly. All right, cool. We are getting there. We're almost there. We're so close. We're so close, and I think it's looking so good. I really do. I think this is looking fantastic. All right, let me mix up some of my dark color. Sepia, neutral tint. Neutral tint's a little purpley. Maybe we'll even throw in a little bit of this burnt umber. We got this nice mixture, and I need to figure out how to do the hair from the mane, right? It's going to be coming down over the forehead. And this is almost dry on the side, so I'm not too worried about messing that up, but I need to in reality, I need to get the ends of this. And that's really what we need to get. And then we can fill in a lot of this. We just can't fill in all of this. Some nice bold brush strokes. To cover this area. And shoot, you know what? Like this guy's got a few that kind of stick out that way. Now, I will be honest, one of the reasons I chose this horse, one is because I like the coloration of this horse. It's a very horsey color to me, if that makes any sense at all. A very horsey color, classic horsey color. But also, with this black hair, with this black mane, I don't have to do too much detail on it. I can just make it kind of a mane, and it is what it is. And there we go. Look at him. Does it need to come down? It comes down a little bit further than that, doesn't it? That's okay. We can bring it on down a little bit further. This is going to be the only part that looks a little bit maybe clumpy or clunky a little bit, but I think it's going to make it. Should I give him a few hairs standing up over here? I want to give him a couple of hairs right on his ears. Just a couple, just to break up the outside edge. We're already using this dark color. There's a couple hairs here and there. Doink, doink, doink. Right, maybe he's got slightly furry ears. That's okay. Oh, wish his eye would dry. Oh, I like it. I like his hair. This is nice. Somewhat toupee-ish. No, I think it looks great. I think it looks great. Let me do this real fast. The mane brings the steed to life. Thank you. Let me do this. Let me put you on silent for just a moment, and I'm going to dry off this, and we're going to see what else we need to do, if anything. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I don't want to blast anybody's eyes out, or eyes. I don't want to blast anybody's ears out when I do that. I've done that before. That's no fun. No fun for me, no fun for you. It's one of those things that it turns on and you're like, whoa. I was thinking of making another line down his muzzle here. Kind of like this. Kind of like these ones here. Just to give it a little bit more depth. But I want to get the right color in here. Something like this maybe. I'll give a line right down here. Let's see what this does. And if we don't like it, we'll just pull it right off of there. It's not a big deal at all. I'm just going to get that wet and just let that color come right out. And I'm going to do both sides of this because I don't want a hard line on it. I want it to be a soft line. I think that's going to help push this a little bit. I actually really like the way that this gray, I'm pointing at my face, but I like the way that this gray, this black has worked into the area around his eye. I think that's a lovely little look there. Whoever said I should do that, I think you were right. Couldn't have been me. Couldn't have been me. All right, there we go. Just a little ridge there coming down his muzzle, so that you know there's a little extra something there to give a little bit more dimension to things. And this is the time when we could continue to do more here. We can continue to add little bits and extend here and add a touch there. But I don't want to do too much. I do, however, want to. I'm going to try to give one little bit more, and I'm going to use some true black on his eye here. And then we're going to probably do some eyelashes. And we're going to call his eyeball good. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to tell you, I actually had a ball painting this. I don't know if you could tell. I very much enjoyed tonight. I very much enjoyed this painting tonight. I told my wife yesterday, something. I go, I'm going to paint something I have never painted in a video before. And she's like, there's something left? I'm like, well, I'm painting a horse. I've never actually painted a horse before. And she's like, oh, that'll be good. And I'm like, oh, well, I hope it's more than just good. I hope it's going to be really good. And, excuse me, and I'm going to tell you what, I absolutely have had a blast painting this. I love that there is just enough to give this guy some dimension and some life and some, oh, look, and I've even put my, you can tell I did this because there's part of my hand in there, right? There's my handprint in there. But I have thoroughly enjoyed painting this. I hope that you guys have enjoyed painting this with me, even if it's posthumously. I'm not expecting anybody's doing this along at home or anything, but maybe I should rephrase that. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching me paint this and talking to me, keeping me company while I've painted this, because I greatly appreciate it. And I had an absolutely wonderful time doing this. I'm going to put some marks up there. Maybe it's not really eyelashes or anything, but it's a little something. City Cases, beautiful job. Thank you. I'm going to sign this guy. I'm not sure where to sign him. I guess I get a sign over here somewhere, right? You can't sign on that itself. So I'm looking up there. I think he's fantastic. Now, if I were going to do more, and I might do a little bit more just before we go anywhere, I might do just a bit more here. Right? I might do just a touch more right here. I just want to define this jawline that little bit more than maybe it is. Not just, I don't think it needs a ton. I do think it needs a little bit, just a little bit. How does that look to me? That looks a bit better to me. I'm glad I did that and not just talked about it. That to me looks better. The part on his neck is it's darker, it's deeper, it's shadowier. There's more back here. There's something going on back here, and we need to show that a little bit more. And with this paper, with these colors, I'm about to my limit here. If I do too much more, the paint's all going to come off and it's going to start to look a little weird, because I've got so many layers of this burnt umber and some yellow ochre on here, and just from past practice, I know that it's a difficult color to get onto this page or this paper, and you put it on in one layer or two layers and it's thick, it starts to lift off, and once you get past maybe 4 or 5 layers, then it does the same thing. So I might be exactly where I'm at with this, and I'm going to be done. I really like the mouth, the snout, the muzzle. I like his mouth. I love his nostril down here. I like the little bits of pink down here. So many animals have that little bit of pink down there. I left a little bit of a white spot there. You can kind of see the white. Whoa, my finger's lost. A little bit of white over there. Ours isn't the same. I love this gradual color coming up there. I love this ochre color, this gray into ochre into this brownish red color over there. I think that looks fantastic. I like the dark right around the eyes. I actually like the ears, the little fuzz that's on them. So much to like about this one. And now with that little bit of darker color there, that jaw stands out a little bit more. I like that even more now. This is all I'm going to do with this one tonight. I want to say thank you to you all for joining me on this Wednesday evening and spending, wow, 2 hours with me. I hope you enjoyed watching me paint this. I hope you try one of your own. I want you to have a great rest of your evening tonight. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Most of all, I hope you can join me back here again next week when we do all this all over again. Until then, thanks so much. Bye-bye.